If there's been a political winner since the 2024 general election, it's been Nigel Farage's Reform Party. Not only have they risen in the polls to the point where they're now ahead of both the Conservatives and Labour, but they're still, almost a year after taking the lead in the polls, commanding around an 8-point lead. And if there was an election tomorrow, it's hard to see how anyone other than Nigel Farage moves into Downing Street. His success is down to the fact that he essentially consolidated the vote on the right, replacing the Conservatives as the main right-wing party in the UK. However, there are signs that Reform's dominance may be waning. As we explained in our other videos, Reform's lead in the polls has started to decline, and only last week a new challenger party, Restore Britain, emerged. Led by former Reform MP Rupert Lowe, it appears to be trying to position itself to the right of reform, promising mass deportations, the abolition of Britain's asylum system, and the removal of the entire illegal migrant population within 3 years. So in this video, we're going to look at this challenger party, what they stand for, and whether they could become a serious force in British politics. If you look at the composition of the House of Commons, everything would look normal. Labour and the Tories occupy the role of government and official opposition, and the smaller parties don't really have any power. Out in the country, though, things are changing. Reform and the Greens are on the rise, and polling suggests that they could be on the cusp of usurping the traditional parties. In the latest issue of our magazine, we discussed this political fragmentation, and exactly how it could change the political fabric of British politics. That's just some of the 72 pages in the magazine, because as always, there's more to too long than you'd expect. Purchase your copy by clicking the link in the description. Now, to understand where Restore Britain came from, you need to first understand exactly how Rupert Lowe fell out with Nigel Farage. Elected as a Reform MP for Great Yarmouth in 2024, Lowe initially appeared close to Farage, becoming his business and agriculture spokesperson. However, clearly by March 2025, things had started to go awry. Lowe criticised Reform as being a protest party led by the Messiah, and that it was too early to tell whether Farage would be a good Prime Minister. And the very next day, Lowe was reported to the police by Reform after Zia Youssef, another senior member of the party, claimed that Lowe made verbal threats against him. As a result of this, the Great Yarmouth MP had the whip removed. While Lowe denied the allegations, he'd never returned to Reform and claimed that the allegations against him were vexatious. In the end, the CPS didn't press charges. Nonetheless, rather than sit as a backbencher in the Commons, Lowe opted to start his own political organisation, Restore Britain. From the very start, it was clear that Lowe would try to position the organisation to the right of Reform, which made sense given that Lowe always appeared to be to the right of Farage, with Farage historically arguing against mass deportations, suggesting that they were a political impossibility. Even when Farage backtracked on this, Lowe suggested that his plans still didn't go far enough, with him arguing in favour of the mass deportation of every single illegal migrant, and the abolition of the entire asylum system. The thing is, despite these policies, Restore Britain wasn't technically a party. It was described as a movement. In a speech last week, Lowe explained that he'd changed his mind on this though, stating that it was his intent to establish Restore Britain as a national political party.
That is why today I am launching Restore Britain as a national political party. At the next general election, we will put forward hundreds of qualified candidates from outside the existing political establishment. They will not be failed ministers. They will not be politicians. They will be men and women who have succeeded in their own fields and want to deliver a better Britain. This will be an entirely different way of doing politics. Restore Britain will be the national umbrella organisation, and we will work with local parties to deliver local priorities for local people. Great Yarmouth First will be the pilot.
Now, it's worth saying that Great Yarmouth First is another party established by Lowe. It was established in December and will solely promote the interests of Rupert Lowe's constituency. It seems that Lowe is attempting to pioneer a new way of running a party, with Restore Britain acting as a sort of umbrella party, representing a collection of right-wing parties across the UK. Presumably, this is designed to contrast the very centralised control of Reform UK, something that Lowe has already put on record his frustration with. To bolster this promise, they've also said that they'll institute a direct democracy platform that allows members to propose and vote on policies, with those that are ratified being added to the full campaign and promoted on various channels. While this might sound more democratic and may provide Lowe with some attack lines on Farage, this strategy does come with significant risks. The only other national party attempting this at the moment is your party, whose decentralised nature has already led to some almighty public arguments and has threatened to make it unelectable. Ideologically though, as we explained earlier, the party is clearly trying to out-Farage. Alongside their radical promises on immigration, they've also promised to hold a referendum on the reintroduction of the death penalty, scrap foreign aid, slash corporation tax to the lowest in Europe, limit social benefits to be exclusively for Brits, ban the burqa and the niqab, ban Sharia courts, ban halal and kosher slaughter, repeal the Gender Recognition Act, and abolish the OBR. On top of these policies, a spokesperson for Restore Britain, Charlie Downs, explained on Talk TV that unlike Reform, who believe that anyone from anywhere can be British, Restore Britain believes that Britain is a people defined by indigenous British ancestry and Christian faith, seemingly excluding those of other religions and invoking a far-right view of British citizenship. This is what Reform UK's London mayoral candidate, Layla Cunningham, had to say of that statement.
They're talking about if you're not white and Christian in this country, you're not British, right? They're going back to some kind of like neo-Nazi Aryan race. If you're not white, I mean, I've heard their spokesperson on Talk TV and on TV saying, if you are not white and Christian, then you're not deemed to be British. And you know, that flies in the face of wanting integration and assimilation, because no matter how much you integrate or assimilate, according to them, you will never be British.
It's abundantly clear then that Lowe's strategy is to try and win over Reform voters who are frustrated that Farage and Reform isn't more radical. To this end, he's already had some success in attracting celebrity support from Duncan Bannatyne and John Cleese, and an endorsement from Elon Musk, who has defended Restore Britain repeatedly on X over the last few days. On top of this, fellow Reform defector Ben Habib, who founded his own political party, Advance UK, has suggested that he'll be open to some kind of merger. However, there is some tentative evidence to suggest that there isn't too much risk of a mass movement from Reform to Restore. A YouGov poll from January last year showed that among those who say that they'll vote for Reform in the next election, a mere 1% say that their main reservation with Reform is that they were not right-wing enough. In fact, 3% cited concerns about racism, and 7% said that they were too right-wing. Given this, it seems that Farage isn't going to lose too much sleep over Restore Britain. In fact, this is what he had to say about the whole thing.
You know, people think, oh, Farage has done it, we'll just set a party up, it'll be marvellous, we'll sweep the next election. It just isn't as easy as that. Now, does he have a profile on X? Yes, he does. Is Elon going to support him? Probably. But you see, when he stood up and said that we've got to consider the mass deportation of entire communities, including those born in the United Kingdom, that just moves way beyond a point of reasonableness, of decency, of morality. And that was the moment at which, I realised we just had to get rid of him, and get rid of him as quickly as we could. And I think in terms of the way we dealt with that, we were probably more brutal than the other parties. But you know what? That's the way it's going to be.
Clearly then, Restore is enabling Reform to pitch themselves as more sensible and moderate. On top of this, Restore is attracting people that Reform probably didn't want associated with them anyway. Tommy Robinson, who Farage has always worked hard to keep away from any of his political outfits, has come out in support of Restore Britain. So too has Steve Laws, an ethno-nationalist online influencer who recently posted on X, "Rupert Lowe is our leader, get in line." Unless they're able to really gain national momentum then, there's every chance that Restore Britain only serves to help Nigel Farage in his mission to win the next election. Clearly, the current state of the world is plagued by uncertainty and risk. And just while you've been watching this video, your personal information may have been sold or published online without you even knowing about it. And you might just think, well, what's the harm in a few spam calls? But unfortunately, it's not that simple. It might be scary, but scams and identity theft both start with your personal data being exposed online. So that's why we turn to Incogni. Incogni expertly tracks down and removes your data from multiple sites so that your personal information can't be bought or sold by bad actors online. No longer will your data pop up on online directories, people's search sites, or commercial databases for everyone to see and abuse. They work on your behalf to request your personal data removal, and even conduct repeated removal requests so that you can remain in control. You can even send Incogni sites that expose your data, and they'll send removal requests on your behalf or assist